Ladies and gentlemen, so we're solving for quadratic equations. Again, this is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So that's the standard form of a quadratic equation, okay, with power 2. That's why we call it quadratic, all right? And the formula is a quadratic formula, okay, which is x equals to negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2 times a. So as you guys can see, there's a difference between quadratic formula and the quadratic equation. So a lot of times people get mixed up with those two. So this one is the formula and this one is the equation. All right. For example, as you guys can see, this is the equation. And from the equation, we're going to be able to use the quadratic formula to get to the solutions. And how many solutions we're looking for? 2 solutions. Since we have 2 as a power, so we're going to look for 2 solutions. All right. So let's go. So we're going to have x equals then negative b. So what is b? What is a? What is b? What is c? Okay, so that's probably one thing that you also want to do for yourself is to detect what is a. A in this case is 12. B, which is negative 11. Okay, and c, which is equals to 2. All right, so you have all of those. So you have a, which is 12, b, which is negative 11, and c, which is equals to 2. All right, so let's go back at it. So negative b, so that means negative. The common mistake that people make is to forget about this negative sign, okay? So this is negative, and then b is what? B itself is negative 11. All right, then that is plus minus. We follow the formula, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Just follow the formula. Square root, what is the b squared? So b is still negative 11, right? Then you square that. You square it minus 4 times, what is a? A is 12. And then c is 2. By following the formula, this is what we have so far, okay? And then divided by what? 2a, 2 times a, so 2 times 12. Are we good so far? All right, so now let's go at it. So x equals 2, then we have negative and negative is what? Positive, so we have positive 11 plus minus again. Square root is back. So what is negative 11 squared? So that means you multiply negative 11 by negative 11. So negative 11 times negative 11 is going to give us 121. Okay, because negative times negative is positive. So we end up with 121. Okay, then now in this case, so let's say you're doing these problems without using calculators. Okay, so that's what we're doing so far. Now, if you are allowed to use calculators, so that is fine. But let's assume that we cannot use calculator and then see how we're dealing with these problems. So now we have negative 4 times 12 times 2. So negative 4 times 12, that would give us what? Negative 48, right? And negative 48 times 2 is going to give us what? It's going to give us negative 96. So negative 96, that's what you have. And then we're dividing this by 2 times 12 is 24. Are we seeing so far? Okay, so we're taking our time, okay? We're taking our time. So now, after you have this, you still have your 11 plus, because now you gotta combine what you have under the radical, okay? Under the square root. So 121 minus 96. How much is that gonna give you? 25. Okay, so you divide the whole thing by 24. So you have 11 plus minus square root of 25 divided by 24. We good? Then what's going to happen now, we can finish with the radical. If whatever we have under the radical is a perfect square, that means 2 numbers that will multiply itself to give you that number. That's what we call a perfect square. A perfect square could be 4 because 2 by 2 is 4. A perfect square can be 9 because 3 by 3 is 9. A perfect square is 16 because 4 by 4 is 16. So we're looking for the number that can multiply itself to give us 25, which is actually 5. So we end up with 11 plus minus 5 over 24. Okay? Now remember, because we have the plus and the minus, that means we're going to have to split our answer here, into 2. So if we split it into 2, so what are we going to get? So that means we have in x1, which is going to give us 11 plus 5 over 24. Okay? And what would that give us? That would give us 16 over 24. And then we're not finished, because anytime you're dealing with fractions, you got to take your time. That means you got to look into it and see if you can reduce it. All right? So to reduce it, what's the number that can reduce 16 and 24 evenly? So you're looking for the highest one, if you can. If you cannot get the highest one, you can go with the smallest number. Somebody can look at those two numbers, which are even numbers. Because they are even numbers, they are divisible by 2, each of them. So you could do that. Or in this case, we already can say, okay, we know what's really happening here. I mean, for me, so it's 8. 8 is the highest number that can divide these two evenly. So that would be divided by 8 and 8. This one is 2 over 3. So x1 is 2 over 3. All right? Remember, we're looking for 2 answers. So that's just 1. What's the second one? The second one is x2, which is then 11. So we have plus minus, don't forget. So we just use the plus, we have to use the minus. So it's 11 minus 5 over 24. And then what's happening with this one here? So this one is giving us 11 minus 5 is what, 6? And then 6 divided by 24. And then what's happening to 6 and 24? What's the number that can go into both numbers evenly? It's 6. Because 6 can divide 6 itself. 24 can divide 6 as well. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. And 24 divided by 6 is 4. So you end up with x2, which is a quarter. So this is what you get, for example, for these two answers. Now, another thing that you can do is to check it and to see if these are the right answer that you've been looking for. So you can always check it. We can try with, but you have to check with both numbers, okay? So let's see if we can do for both, or we can just do for one at least. So let's take, on this one here and saying that we want to check the answer. All right? So if you're going to check it, that means what? Checking it means you're taking the answer and substitute it into the equation. So that means you have 12. Okay, we go with the original equation, all right? 12 times, what is x? Is 2 squared minus 11 times 2 over 3, and then plus 2. And we want that to be equal to 0. And once the left side equal to 0, you're good. All right? So let's go and see. So we come back here. And then we say 12, all right, times 2 over 3 squared is what? Is 2 squared, which is 4, and 3 squared, which is 9. Okay? So you square both of them. So you have 4 over 9. All right, then minus 11 times 2 over 3, because this one is a whole number, you can multiply by 2, which is 22. So you have 22 over 3. And then plus 2. And they're all supposed to give you 0. So now in this case, you have 12 times 4 over 9. Somebody can reduce before you can multiply, because 3 can go into 9 3 times, 3 can go into 12 4 times. We good? So this one is giving you a 16 over 3 minus 22 over 3 plus 2 equals to 0. So what can we do here? Because these two carry a common denominator, we can go ahead and then operate it. That means 16 minus 22, which is going to give us what? 6? Negative 6 over 3, because they have the common denominator, which is 3. So you keep the 3 underneath, and 16 minus 22 is negative 6, right? And then plus 2 equals to 0. So what is negative 6 divided by 3? It's going to give us negative 2 plus 2. And then what this one gives us, 0 equals to 0. This checks out. So this is a true statement. So that means our solution here, which is x1, 2 over 3, is correct. And the same thing you have to do for x over, sub 2. So you guys can try that and see if it's going to be also a true statement or not a true statement. So true statement, again, means that whatever you have on the left side of the equal sign should be the same thing on the right side of the equal sign. It doesn't matter what number it is. It could be 2 and 2. It could be -3, -3. It could be any other numbers, but they have to be the same thing so that you can say that you have a true statement. And once you have a true statement, that means your solution is indeed correct. So you guys can see this is what, we do on such problems, for example. So again, this is quadratic equations, and make the difference between the equation itself and then the formula. It's two different things, but we use the formula in order to get to this one here. So the next thing we're going to do is to solve for such problems without using quadratic, formula to see if it's possible to also do it. All right? Okay.